Ladies and gentlemen, whether you have played chess a lot or not much at all, you still probably know that the man that moves the pieces better than anybody else in the world is named Magnus Carlsen. I've covered him a lot on this channel. I've covered him at the World Championship matches. I've covered him through various dramas and sagas. I've covered him through ups and downs. But in this video, I would like to show you a game, just one game that he played, and I would like to break down his playing style in an easily digestible format for you. 3 simple rules to play a game of chess like Magnus Carlsen and try to win and gain rating for the rest of your life. Results may vary. I have tried to break this down like this. Magnus Carlsen always looks for an imbalanced opening, an opening that grants him a playable position, an opening that has not been studied and studied and studied until its conclusion, an opening that has both risks and rewards. Number 2, piece activity and coordination, both maximizing it for himself. Oftentimes he's talked about talking to his pieces, all right, which means asking them where they want to go and seeing how they all coordinate, and removing that coordination from the opponent, frequently targeting the opponent's pieces and making them out of whack, out of sync. Number 3, most important, relentless problem posing. There is a psychological factor here, of course. If you play your cousin, they're not going to be psychologically rattled. If it was Magnus, then every move comes with authority. But relentless problem posing, putting your opponent in positions where they have 2 or 3 or 4 decisions to make, and they don't make the right one, not making the game easy for them. That's all. Those are your 3 steps. Like I said, results may vary. This game really encapsulates what I am talking about. It was a very impressive game. In this game, his opponent is David Paravyan, who is a Russian grandmaster, who opened the game with the move d4. Now, right off the bat, right, you can play very classical chess. Queen's pawn, queen's gambit declined, and that way you don't get number 1. You don't always get a very playable and dynamic position. You get something that has been really studied a lot. But if you play the Dutch defense, there are pros and cons associated with this move. The Dutch below the level of 2000 is one of the best openings for black. It really is. Because your development plan is very simple. It has very little to do with how your opponent is going to play. And as black, since you go second, your opponent gives you information, almost like in poker, and then you respond to that information and you try to adapt your position the way that it goes. Now, here's already a big move by white, bishop f4. So normally with white, white puts the second pawn and then moves the knight and then puts the bishop here. So this is a London type of setup, but it's not really a London system yet, because now Carlsen has to disclose some information. He puts the knight, white goes here, white hasn't touched the knight, white hasn't touched the c or the f pawn, white is waiting, black now has to commit to a Dutch defense. You either have to go e6 or g6 or b6 or play something, d5, try to play a stonewall Dutch, which he has played. Carlsen goes here, and now in 0.9 seconds, literally, I am looking at the move. This move is played, and Paravyan plays h4, unafraid of the opponent. Doesn't matter that it's Magnus Carlsen, he's coming to take his head off. This move targets this pawn, a pawn that has been advanced. h5 is there. h5 is very dangerous because if you get h5 on the board and then this happens, because the queen and the rook both see it, rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes is actually just checkmate. And that would not be a video where Magnus Carlsen played with black. It would be a video where he played with white, and the person with black was probably a bird. I have no idea. So this is the point. You want to go h4, h5. You want to create attacking chances right away. Seeing that h5 is coming, now we definitely have number 1, right? We have a very imbalanced position, a position that is full of life, full of problem solving, full of complicated decisions. And this is why it is good to have these openings in your toolbox. You don't have to play like this, but your position needs to get some life in it, right? There has to be something to play for. Magnus notices this. He wants to go here, so he plays h6. Of course, playing like this is generally very weird. It's weird to play like that because your pawns are very weak. I mean, you look like the queen is going to come in, and if the queen gets here, it's mate. Okay. White plays knight f3, developing the knight. And now Magnus doesn't want the move knight e5 to happen, so he plays d6. Right? Stable. Everything is good. Covered. 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 Right? Not letting him get close. Paravyan now develops this knight to c3. Normally, you put the pawn out first. Normally, you put the pawn and then the knight, because that pawn fights more for the center, right? It's targeting that square, and then the knight joins, And also when you go c4, the queen can come out to b3, for example, which is always very nice. But when the knight goes to c3, with black, you are now given information. The knight went here and the pawn went here, which means white might be preparing a long castle. And since white is castling long, black now has to think, am I castling short? Am I castling long? Am I not castling? How will I attack? How will I be attacked? Magnus plays a very flexible move, e6. And you might be wondering, Levy, how on earth is this piece coordination? Well, it is, because actually these pawns are like little spikes. They are preventing white's pieces from entering the territory. White cannot cross the center line. Pieces are covered, and the pawns are going to move slowly. These pieces are going to develop very, very slowly. White is going to develop the rest of his pieces, and then Carlsen is going to pounce, with the piece coordination. Another thing to keep in mind at high-level chess and at your level chess, as you have to get better and gain rating, pawn breaks. Spots in the position where potential pawn trades can happen and how they impact the game, right? You have to calculate. For example, if white went d5 here, I, as a strong chess master, not as good as these guys, but I know that the best move for black is to play this move e5 because you're supported, you're winning control of the center. The bishop now has to get pushed out of the middle like this, and winning this space is very important for black. That little transformation of pawns is a significant advantage to black, as white loses a lot of their mobility and attacking opportunities in the center of the board. White doesn't do that. He goes bishop d3. Magnus sees that e4 is coming and plays knight c6. This knight c6 is getting to the second thing. The second thing was piece activity and coordination, and then the third thing, relentless problem solving. So as we go back to this overlay, you have this, right? That's going to be, but the coordination, knight b4 to try to target that bishop on d3 and potentially trade it, trying to exchange some of white's pieces in the center of the board so that white loses control of the center and isn't able to so quickly break in the middle. If white broke open the middle, it would be a problem. For instance, if white plays the move e4, which is exactly what he does in the game, this is where people go wrong. There are a lot of decisions to make here for black. Decision 1, take with a pawn. Decision 1A, take with the pawn and then take with the knight. 1B, take with the pawn and then leave it alone. Decision 2, take with the knight. But that would kind of become the same thing. Okay, so do we take at all? I don't know. Do we ignore? How do we ignore? Do we go here? Do we go here? Do we go with the queen? Do we go with the bishop? Do we push a pawn? Like, what do we do? How on earth do you know what the best move is here? As a 1100 level player, or a 500, or a 1500, or a 2000. Taking is awful. It's very dangerous because you actually open up this bishop. And then if you take again, this is extremely dangerous. You are almost lost on the spot, except you have queen here, which also attacks the bishop. And that gains black a little bit of time. And then black, white has to retreat and the game proceeds. But you don't want to leave the pawn here. So what you do here is you keep the tension. Keep the tension is a skill that not a lot of people have. Now, I've written a book about chess. It's called How to Win a Chess. It gets you to 1,000. How to Win a Chess Next Level, which is the second book that I've written. It comes out October 2026. I've talked about it a lot. Even in that book, which is designed to get you to 1700, keep the tension is not as big of a thing. But I will be writing a third book. This might be breaking news. I have never shared this anywhere, I think. I will be writing a third book from 1600 to 2200 on the road to mastery of chess. And that is a skill that to get to chess mastery, advanced level, 1800, you have to know when to keep the tension. And the tension is being kept here. Nobody is budging. A beginner might think, well, then white is going to go here and attack my knight. And that's bad. Why is it bad? It's bad if you lose the knight, but actually this move might be out of position. Like, if the knight goes here, suddenly for black, 1, 2, 3, and 4 pieces are attacking that central pawn. And then if white relieves the tension, how is this bad for black? There's no way in. Against very well fortified pawns, an enemy cannot break in. It's not possible. Look, d5. Even if you take it, you're fine. Even if you push and attack the bishop, you're fine. You can even move the knight. You even have crazy moves here like queen b6, which threaten checkmate due to your better piece activity as a result of white's overextending. This is pretty master level stuff, but hopefully you are still following along. So keeping the tension. Don't be afraid just because someone can attack your piece, okay? White goes queen e2. More tension is being kept. Both of these knights are staring at that pawn. Black can't quite take it. Now, with black here, maybe you go for short castle, maybe you move a queen or a bishop. Magnus is unafraid. He pushed a bunch of pawns, he's not afraid, and white long castles. Now, this is a declaration that the game is going to be aggressive, that the game is going to be combative, exciting. Now, the computer here recommends taking is okay because you have fortified your king, and after the clash, there will be rook against the bishop. But Magnus understands something very simple. Piece activity and coordination. White is very happy, very happy. His pieces stand very well. That's why this move is important. Knight to b4, which Stockfish doesn't love because of a very concrete refutation, which I will show you. Knight b4 aims to trade the knight for the bishop and destabilize white's control of the center. Since this game is, and this spot is being fought on a light square, when you trade the light squared bishop, this bishop becomes much more powerful. On b6 and b7, it will fight for the center, also fortifying the center. That's why the move knight b4 is good. Now, we can talk in generalities, but in chess, you have to also get specific. And specifically here, the computer likes e5 now. Why does it like it now? Because if the knight were to move somewhere, like earlier we talked about this, after a3, knight takes bishop, rook takes, it thinks, the computer thinks, this position is better for white. It thinks this is a dominant space advantage. Notice how this is reinforced 4 different times. The rook is coming. And computers nowadays are very territorial with their pawn structure understanding. When they remove an opponent's pawn mobility, like here, black can't really move forward very easily, the computer is always going to give an advantage to white. It always is. Now, Carlsen's not a human. Not a human. Carlsen's not a computer. Did I say not a human? He kind of isn't. That's not an understanding of chess that humans have fully graduated to, particularly in blitz chess, just like territorial pawn space. White instead is like, well, if I move my bishop out of the way, I'm going to blunder pawn takes, knight takes, queen takes, and a fork. And I'm just going to lose the game. So that's not good. So he goes king b1, and Carlsen grabs the bishop. So we have this position, right? Now, Magnus plays probably the most impressive move of the game. And it's not a sacrifice. It's not anything like groundbreaking or earth-shattering. But if you can find this move for black, you have high hopes as a chess player. You really do. This is not an easy move. It's not an easy move to find. And again, it plays on piece coordination and problem solving. Piece coordination and problem solving. Many of you would be tempted to play knight to h5, attacking this bishop in one move. What's hilarious is that's actually the top choice of the computer, because not only do you attack the bishop, you have various ideas of targeting the center. But as a beginner, I don't want you to think like this. One movers that just attack the bishop. There is a much more thematic move, which is better for your long-term development. It's interesting that in chess, the move that the computer likes is actually not always the best practical decision. It likes it based on massive amounts of data pulled back from what it sees in the future. You just see a knight attacking a bishop. Carlsen plays, and you can pause the video, you can try to find it. Carlsen plays the move b5. This is an incredible move. It clearly shows the understanding. I mean, I don't have to tell you he knows the understanding. It shows you the understanding of relentless problem solving and piece coordination. One pawn move impacts 4 different pieces. In some ways, it impacts 5. And in other ways, it impacts 7. How's that possible? What kind of riddles am I speaking in? So this pawn move impacts, number 1, the knight. Obviously, because either you are baited to take it, or I'm going to push. And just the mere threat of me pushing this pawn and dislodging your knight from the defense of the center is a problem. If you take the pawn, your king is a weakness, because I'm going to move my rook. That's 3 pieces affected already. Rook on the b file, the open b file, the knight, and the king. So you have to grapple with, do I take the pawn and allow this attack? The 4th piece is this bishop. It impacts the bishop because the bishop will get the diagonal when the knight captures it. The bishop will go to a6, which it couldn't do before, or to b7 and target e4. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces have been affected. You know which other pieces are affected? 1, 2, 3. How What am I talking about, bro? How on earth can this pawn move impact these pieces? Very simple. If you remove the knight from the stabilizing of the e4 square, when I take on e4 and then open up my knight, my rook will hit the bishop. The knight losing control of the middle is a big deal for white, as there will be a lot of moments where I open up the side of the board. Hey, and guess what? When the knight moves, I'll also open up the bishop. The move b5 was so striking to me, I built an entire YouTube video about it. I was so impressed with the concept of this. Now, for the second time, the computer is so afraid of the move b5. It wants to go here. It wants to close the position, lock it up, like construction on a road. It just close it. You're not going to open this side. No, you move the knight. That's fine. Take my bishop. Look, it just doesn't, it wants stability. It wants this and this. This is what the computer wants. It's making a bunker of pieces. This is white's only approach to the position. David Paravian doesn't do that. He goes queen c2. He continues to defend the pawn, but on b4, he tries to either move the knight this way, or as you're going to see in the game, he tries to go here and knight b5. So he brought the queen to defend and to attack c7. The sequence from the move b5 until around move 20 in this game shows why Carlsen is the best chess player in the world with by far the highest level of understanding. Queen c2 is on the board. We continue our plan. The best move for white is to go back. We will chop the center, target this, and already we're almost winning, because even if you defend this pawn, I take it, and as I just said, I open up this. You thought I was BSing. I mean, you just thought, he's talking out of his ass. He just glazes Magnus, all he does is glaze Magnus, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, I showed you how a pawn move affects like 8 other pieces. It's really fascinating stuff. But then Paravian went here to attack c7, and he must have thought Carlsen is going to play defense. He must have thought it's hard for black to guard this pawn. Maybe he has to move with his rook, and then I would attack it, and then maybe he has to bring his knight back and play all passively. Carlsen saw the knight and the queen targeting his pawn, and I bet he laughed. I bet he looked at this and went, do you think I care about such a pawn? If you get in over here, yes, you get the dopamine hit of attacking my rook, but your queen and king are on the same diagonal. When my bishop goes here, I will threaten everything, which is why Carlsen used the concept of danger levels and took on e4. Because now, if you play knight takes c7, I take this knight, of course. You get your rook, of course. I take a pawn attacking the rook, of course you move. And now knight to d5, simultaneously attacking the bishop with the knight and the rook, opening up the bishop over here, and locking the knight out of the game. After bishop g3, bishop b7, you cannot even take here, because my bishop would win your rook in every single possible tactic, like knight takes c3, bc3, bishop g2, and the knight is still trapped. The fact that this man, he is like the Doctor Strange of chess. He just chomps this down, white goes here, and bishop b7, you cannot protect the pawn properly. You play rook e1, or whatever's going to happen in the game, white goes d5. Carlsen is now able to take this, and knight c7 is coming, or maybe he has to block. Carlsen sees that his pawn is hanging to the knight, and he presses his head into the pistol. Like in a movie. Queen d7, take your best shot, Mr. Dropstone. Because if you take with the queen, I take the knight. If you take with the knight, well, I will pin you. But I will not pin you with this rook. This is incredible, really. It looks like the rook is hanging should do the pin. But then white would go here. And after you take the knight, there is a fork of rooks. Which is why Carlsen moved the other one. And now if d6, take, this is not a fork. It's not a fork. Black is winning. Carlsen played rook c8, and when white defended, the knight went back, and the knight is stuck. The sequence of moves in this game from this position, b5, b4, fe here, forcing the knight, and the f-rook. This man is on another planet. Now he's completely winning. How do you convert a position? Because if you sat me down with black here with a minute up against Mr. David Paravyan, I would explode with diarrhea and probably lose. So rook c1, knight e8, Carlsen has won the knight, okay? Now, how do we convert a position after applying the method? Because if you apply the method, but you can't win the game, yet you haven't done anything. White takes the pawn on h6. We count the material. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Black is up a bishop for 2 pawns. Also, black's king is a little bit weak. Okay, Carlsen, how do you win a winning position? You simplify it down to an endgame, or you use your material advantage to generate a big attack. Big attack is going to be tough here. If anybody, black has to play defense. So we trade some rooks, we trade some pawns, and queen f5 check is a very important move, as we will be winning the pawn in the center like this. So now it's a piece for only 1 pawn. White wants to take, white wants to bring the queen and the rook, and we want to trade queens. With no queens, we will never get mated, ever. Queen goes to e3. Carlsen plays queen e4, centralizing the queen, continuing to bother his opponent for a queen trade, and Paravyan plays queen back to d2. Carlsen threatens a rook trade. Every piece white loses is a step closer to falling off the cliff. So we have to go rook e1, we threaten another queen trade, and now we go takes, takes, and queen h5. So we did trade, we did allow the queen in, and it's very important you play queen h5, because if you go here and white goes here, you lose. You lose. I mean, it doesn't matter that you're up material. King safety and material are on the same level of importance, okay? So you have to be very sharp. Queen h5 kicks out the queen moves. Now what does Carlsen do? We have to remove another piece from the board. Methodical. Oh, but bishops are better than knights. Yeah, but when you're trying to trade all the pieces, some concepts matter more, right? So we get rid of this. White now only has 2 pieces to attack us with. A queen trade is an automatic victory, but it's not just going to happen. I am so impressed with this next move. This is the top move of the computer in the position. I would never play this move, ever. Huge battle is going on. Carlsen goes a5. You know why he goes a5? Because he's just protecting his pawn. Everything in black's position is good right now. Everything is kind of protected. The rook is not, but it's not under threat. The king is weak. I would be pooping my pants with rook e7 incoming. Rook e7 is absurd. Queen f7, how do you stop it? Probably something like queen f5, right? Yeah. Or sack the queen! Because you defend queen f7. And if takes, the deflection off of the back rank, this is back rank checkmate. Carlsen in the middle of this game, wide open king, minute on the clock, always looking for mate down this way, a5. Rook g1, and now I really love this. I love this sequence to finish off the game in the nastiest way. Knight g7. He blocks the attack on his king. He gives away the pawn on d6, because if it's taken, these pawns are left abandoned. And just king here. And this cocoon for the black king is exactly how you win. Because these pawns cannot break down this side of the position. Here it's a 2-on-2. The queen guards this. Even in the endgame, the piece coordination for Carlsen is right there. Everything is safe. a4 is played. He plays queen f5, bringing the queen closer to the action. Queen a6, there's no threat. And rook c5 defends the pawn because now he can start eating. Just be careful, by the way. Queen f3, queen g6, and queen g7 mate. You can always lose. Queen here. Rook d5. Some simple improving moves. King a2. And we force the queen trade. The king comes out. Everything is defended. If you don't trade queens with me, I move my rook and it's a discovered check. The queens are off. The game is finished. And he just needs 1 pawn. Just needs 1 pawn. Rook d4. Rook h4. White is going to make a little bit of a comeback here, bring the king over here, win some pawns. He's too fast. G3, G1, and White resigned. I built this entire video and this entire concept because I know, you guys have to understand, I'm not good enough to play Carlsen or Paravian. I will lose more often than I win against Magnus. I will lose every game. Maybe I will win 1 in 100. I have no clue. I've beaten David a few times, but my point is, I can look at this game and be wowed and get it, but demystifying this to a general audience of how truly magnificent this man's chess is, like, the art of understanding all the breaks in the position, whether taking, pushing, ignoring, reinforcing is the right plan, trading off this knight at the critical moment like this. And here, if you give this position to a student, B5, it's not a move. It's a move that would be considered by people above 1800. Consistently. I know people like to watch these videos and then complain in the comments that they're 1100 and they saw it. You saw it, but you didn't fully get it. And I hope I did justice to this game, how one pawn move affects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and maybe even 8 pieces. That is sensational. And even though it was a 5-minute blitz game on chess.com, this man makes art and he doesn't even know it. And I bet if I showed him this video or this game, he'd be like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Like, it's just, he just shows up and plays, but we are fascinated. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, you know where to find me for my courses are on Chessly. I got books. I've got the slow run. Another episode is coming out tomorrow, climbing to 2200. And yeah, Europe tour later this year. See you all there. Get out of here.